And welcome back to the show. The Opportunity Network is a not-for-profit organization that's providing underrepresented young people with the support, tools, and training they need to thrive in their college as well as their careers. With the COVID-19 pandemic disproportionately impacting under-resourced communities, the Opportunity Network has launched Uninterrupted, Unstoppable Learning, which is an open access learning platform. Now, the platform is designed to mitigate the learning loss and opportunity gap caused by the pandemic and is easily accessible to any first generation student and young person of color. And joining us now to share a little bit more about the information and sharing information is the president and CEO of the Opportunity Network. We're pleased to be joined by AiLun Ku. And AiLun, good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful opportunity to talk, and especially as we talk about opportunities, right? I want to get your take, though, as COVID-19 has impacted so many people. Obviously, the work that you do has rather been ramped up. So share with us a little bit about the network and what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. And so the Opportunity Network, we work with first generation young people of color to ensure they have the access, the skills, the training to pursue every college, every post-secondary, and every career option that they're excited to pursue. And so we try to break down every barrier that's in front of them that gets in the way of their ambitions. And so we launched Uninterrupted, Unstoppable Learning early on in the COVID pandemic, because we knew that there were young people of color, first generation college bound students across the country that were going to have additional barriers to access and getting critical information and critical training to pursue their dreams.
And when we talk about these young people trying to pursue their dreams, one of the things is college, of course. And we know that college is something that a lot of them are looking to go to and want to make it their best. But we know that virtual learning has also been the order of the day, right? So talk to us about navigating that and that whole virtual experience and how you've been able to wrap your arms around them in a time like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So within our organization and working with our fellows, and these are the folks that we work directly with over the course of summer after 10th grade, all the way through college graduation, and they're New York City public school students. We found that connectivity was an issue. It was really unequally distributed in terms of broadband. And so we knew we had to get hotspots and increase data plans to all of our students. And that also helped us understand that not all virtual learning was being adapted at the same pace or with the same level of innovation or creativity, because teachers are woefully undertrained and resourced and be able to convert their learning environments into a virtual platform that also supports them. So what we wanted to do was adapt all of our curriculum into asynchronous, autonomous content that can also be used by teachers, so that teachers and educators had reliable and high quality resources to engage with students on post-secondary learning. And it didn't have to be only accessible through teachers and educators. So students themselves could also access it directly with relatively minimal broadband and also on their own time on any mobile device.
Yeah. And obviously for students, it's a trying time. And when we talk about having that access to technology, what have you been able to find out in terms of those students that you've been reaching and touching? Have they had the adequate access, or what's it been like? What have you heard from them?
Yeah, we've heard from our students kind of a variety of challenges when it came to virtual learning. I think first, if you think about hardware, I think hardware was inconsistently accessible through the New York Public School system. And so I think the New York Public School tried really hard to get iPads and Chromebooks to as many hands of the students as possible, but logistically it was really challenging. And so our staff really supported our students in navigating that resource. And in the cases where the hardware still wasn't accessible, we were able to fundraise and get hardware to our students. Now, after hardware is software and also connectivity, right?
Right.
And so if you have, say, assume that you have the hardware, but it could be old. That means if you're required to stream video content and if you're required to use new learning management systems that require updated operating systems, your old hardware is no longer a viable solution for you, right? And so those two kind of came in hand. And then also connectivity. When everybody is at home, especially during the early half of COVID, and now more so now that the numbers have gone up a little bit, more people are at home sharing the same broadband, right? And so
Right.
that means having a household of 4, 5, or 6 people on one connection was not sustainable. And so what we learned that, and we were able to, again, through our COVID emergency relief grants, support with additional data plans, and also supporting with hotspots for our young people to be able to access the internet on a consistent basis, where they didn't have to share their bandwidth so much with other household members.
Yeah. When we talk about uninterrupted, I mean, uninterrupted, unstoppable, two words that really stick out. And give me this about uninterrupted, because there's some educational disparities that come, and they're plaguing our students at an astronomical rate, and even more with the COVID-19 pandemic. Talk to us about what you've gotten in terms of results and seeing some of these educational disparities and how these things have been playing out.
Yeah. So thank you for noting the name of our new platform. And they were really inspired by the spirit of the young people that we work with. Right. And so much of their daily lives, all of their entire day is navigating spaces, learning environments, workplaces that were not designed to help them thrive in the first place. And so that means every day they're navigating spaces to problem solve, to communicate differently than their counterparts would have to be, just to be taken more seriously, right? And so they already have these barriers that they've been pushing through, and yet they continue to thrive in every industry that you can think of, right, years from now. And so we really took inspiration from our communities and say they've always been unstoppable, right? And our role is to break down the barrier so they don't have to be interrupted by something like a pandemic, although we know that there's going to be continued hardships. And so one of the things that we learn from our students and our communities is how can we as youth services providers redesign and reinvent how we spend time together. And so traditionally before the pandemic, we would use workshop settings to learn with one another, to compare notes. And so we were able to build community while we were learning. Now, in this virtual environment, what we found that because so much of their time for learning is spent through the screen, we needed a different mechanism to support the community building time and the engagement piece. And so to have asynchronous content that continues to drive learning and opening up live sessions for community building is something that the platform allows us and all of our partners to do. And so that's been receiving pretty positive feedback from all of our partners and also our students.
When we talk about interactive and engaging learning, it's obviously the biggest component of this whole virtual platform. How one can be interactive, how can one be engaging? What's been the response of students? Do they feel like, things are more interactive and more engaging? Or, are we hearing what we heard in the part of some where it's like, oh, I just dread this, because it's I just can't get into it. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we're still learning. Some of the early things that we learned is that we need to have short modules, right? Short modules that drive micro learning objectives. So we're not keeping any young person online in a particular module for too long, because then you will lose their attention span, and it will be, pretty boring and passive for a learner. And then we also chose a software that allowed us to build content that requires learner engagement. That means you have to click on the screen in order to get the next piece of content. There's drag and drop options for you to demonstrate your learning. There's multiple choice questions. There are hotspots on a graphic where you can explore what's actually on the screen. So the idea is that it invites the student into the process of learning even through your monitor, as opposed to being a passive learner where you're watching just a video or watching a recorded webinar. Because what we learned that just watching and not actively engaging essentially will end in what you were saying earlier, where the young people just can't get into it because that's what they've been doing all day already. And so having these mini modules allows us to have live conversation time with our young people to be able to have conversations about the mini modules so that they can do both things, And one piece they can do on their own time, and the other piece they can do when we're live together on a Zoom session.
Talk to me about your young people. How do they engage? How do you get them? People say, listen, the Opportunity Network. How do I get a young person connected?
Yeah, so thank you so much for asking that question. We're in the process of our recruiting right now. And so we work with about 250 public high schools throughout the New York City area to work with guidance counselors, teachers, educators, and also our alumni and our current fellows to host information sessions to tell them more about our program. And then we have an application process, and we're looking for students who are the first in their families to go to college, right? We're looking for students who have a demonstrated financial need, and we're also looking for students who have demonstrated academic aptitude, because we, at the end of the day, we're not an academic program. And so we want to make sure our students are coming ready to receive all the other resources that we provide. And then we start recruiting for students right now. They have to be current 10th graders. And then we'll support them the summer after 10th grade all the way through college graduation. So you can check out our website right now, opportunitynetwork.org, for more information on how to apply.
Yeah. One thing I like is that you stay with your students, right? And you stay with them for, not just the short term, but you're with them for a long duration. Talk to me about that being a difference maker in terms of student achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so important to us to stay with our students through key transition points. So we start with them the summer after 10th grade. And then, so that means we're with them in the early college exposure years, and then also during their college application process, the transition process, and then supporting them in persisting, right? And in the 5 summers that they're with us, we're able to encourage them to participate in paid internship opportunities, as well as leadership and enrichment programs. So the time that we have with our students allows us to build real, meaningful relationships with every single one of them. And it also allow us to have history and to learn together as a community. So as the world changes, as the future of work changes, as the workforce continues to change, we can adapt our support services to be able to meet what the world is and also what our students need, and also engage our students in having a seat at the table in shaping some of these conversations. And so in having done this longitudinal program for 17 going on 18 years as an organization, I'm really proud to say over 92% of our students graduate college within 6 years, and then after they graduate, 89% of them secure career interest aligned jobs or graduate admissions within 6 months of college graduation.
You talk about putting your hands on them around 10th grade, right? And that's a really, really important time. Give us the value of being able to catch them that early and what that time frame means. Because, when you talk about walking them through, and you just get statistics about graduation and then jobs, job placement, but it starts early.
Yep, absolutely. And so starting in 10th grade allows us to be able to play a critical role in exposure. So we double down on exposure in that first year they're with us, and also some foundational skill building. So exposure allows them to see all the possibilities in front of them. I think if we were to start a little bit later in the process in their high school journey, that many of them will be too late for us to expose them to other opportunities around colleges that actually fit their long-term goals, their financial status, and also their academic ambitions, right? And so the earlier we start, the more that we can expose them to honor and support their sense of agency in making the right decisions for them around post-secondary learning as well as career.
So coming up around the corner, we're in the beginning of January 2021, of course. You talked about recruitment. Where are things going from here as we start the new year?
We are operating as an entirely virtual program for this entire academic year, like many of our peers. And what we're excited to do is we've seen also a surge of virtual volunteerism. And so what we've been able to do is kind of hit the gas pedal in exposing our students to as many professions out there as possible through speed networking, through career exposure roundtables, through a new series that we have called Opportunity Talks, where movers and shakers around the world that also share elements of their identity with our young people can share a little bit about their journeys. and so that our young people can see versions of themselves in the future. And so we have tons of virtual programming planned for our young people, and we continue to think through how we emerge from the pandemic, relying on the best of what's good on should stay on virtual, as well as bringing back the in-person proximity and the connectivity that we're all looking forward to.
Yeah. What are you hearing about getting back in person? What's the time frame looking like for you? Have you heard anything new about when you plan on getting together back in person?
Not yet. So we, our academic year and our organizational fiscal year goes till August. So at the minimum, we're staying virtual until the end of August. And I think come May and June, we're going to kind of recalibrate and understand what are the numbers out there right now. What's the vaccination schedule? What's the requirement for our young people, if at all? And so there's so many pieces of information that's outstanding to help us anticipate what's next. But our primary and only priority is to make sure that all of our young people are safe. And whenever we introduce in-person programming, we're not putting their households at risk because so many of our students live in multi-generational households.
So give us some final tips before we leave. If people want to get connected, what do they do and how do they go about doing it?
Yeah, sure. And so we are really excited to enroll young people and also institutions on the open access platform. And so you can visit opportunitynetwork.org/uninterrupted to learn more about the platform itself, but then also to submit your interest in enrolling on our platform.
About how many people do you have working with you at the Opportunity Network?
Right now, so we have, we serve a little over 1,000 students in our fellows program. We have a partnerships program where we build capacity at other organizations across the nation. And so through that program, we work with over 40 institutional partners serving about 7,000 students. And then on Uninterrupted, we currently have interest from over 70 organizations that serve over 7,000 students. And so we're in the process of enrolling them onto our platform.
Awesome work. AiLun Ku, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
The Opportunity Network, AiLun Ku sharing with us a little bit more about that organization. And of course, if you want more information, you saw the information that's at the bottom of the screen where you can be connected to them. And hopefully you can find out more about the Opportunity Network and create a possible opportunity. All right, we'll be back. Got another segment coming up right here on the Social Justice Forum.